Tatyana Vladimirovna, you have met with the Dalai Lama. What questions led you to him, and what impression did he make on you? Thank you.
The Dalai Lama has been meeting with the world's largest scientists for 30 years. He has never met with Russian scientists. The first time last year we went. As for His Holiness, I'm not sure he's human at all. He's an incredible personality, a powerful personality. Intellectually, emotionally, he is funny, he is, I would even say, hooligan. He provokes, he can approach a person, grab him by the nose, he can start making jokes, he can suddenly start laughing like that. When I saw it for the first time, I was even confused at all. He somehow slapped himself so hard and started laughing so much that he just didn't fall from this chair. That is, he behaves like a wise man who allowed himself to be a small child. He is truly wise, he has incredible strength and energy in him. But when we were introduced to him, he took me by the hand like this, which in itself is interesting. As if, why did he take me by the hand? So when he took my hand like that and held it for a while, I felt it physically. I swear to you that I'm telling the truth. I would never risk lying like that. That's how I got a hot wave. That's just how physically I felt it. That's how a hot stream went. And that, of course, turned me over right away. These are the issues that we are discussing here, only in a much more complex form, and were discussed there. And I asked it myself. We all asked a lot of questions to Buddhists, and His Holiness and monks, and by the way, they reacted very interestingly to this. They said all these years, when Western scientists visited us, I will simplify what they said. They treated us like teachers treated students. They didn't ask us questions, they taught us. We asked them a lot of questions. There were discussions like this, but still what to do with reincarnation, because reincarnation is the transfer of a person to another body. This is not on the topic that we will all go over the world better at some point, and our body will decompose into particles. And a palm tree or a pine tree will grow out of these particles, but we are not talking about that. We are talking about the fact that my personality will pass into another body. And we say, how can this be? There is no carrier, physical carrier of energy, or whatever you want to call it. What channel can it go through? This question can't be the whole scientific picture of the world that humanity has now, says that this can't be a very interesting answer. And their answer is, so it's you scientists. We're fine. We just know these facts. We know it's there. And the fact that there is no such channel, so you scientists are looking for a channel. You're not looking for that. You don't work well, as it were. But it's wonderful that it all happens on such. You see, it's not aggressive, but Buddhists can't have aggressiveness. They have a completely different setup. It happens. I would even say it's fun. It's embedded in your worldview. Not in the sense that I was a representative of this civilization, and now I have become a Buddhist, no. But let's say, but it affects scientific thinking, because let's say the direct question, does insects have consciousness in insects, is one of the questions that they were asked, of course. There is, because it is everywhere, you know, it's not just a person who answers. A person who has not read anything does not know anything at all. There is a wise man answers. This is not a joke. His answer is that you can't dismiss it as insignificant, so yes, it's a very strong impression. This trip is serious.
Это серьезно.
So I want to ask you about such brain hygiene back then. Before the beginning, when we talked a little, we remembered Herman Oskarovich. You also remembered him. I worked with him in Davos in the 18th year. You had projects with him too, not one. But the famous story that Hermann Greff taught the Espriar to meditate. Yes, he loves someone who is amorous, so it's Greff. He is always fond of something. Then meditation, I won't even list it. Yes, but I have a specific question here. In general, the task there is often formulated as follows. Meditation helps to focus and ideally achieve a state of mental silence. That's what these guys call it in the East. So this is exactly the kind of buzz when you have to sit like that and make it empty and enjoy it. How do you feel about this? I take this very seriously because I really don't work with these monks myself. But my close friends and colleagues work with Buddhist monks in Buddhist monasteries in India and Nepal. I was present at these experiments myself. I repeat, I did not make them myself. I am not a co-author, but I am aware of the matter. This is a serious thing. In order for the stage you are talking about, we will sit here for 3 days if I start talking. There are stages of immersion in meditation. There are 8 of them. Units reach the last stage of the 8th. These units are people who meditate without descending from the mountains. Let's say the last 55 years. Do you understand? This is not fitness, this is not what you were told. Calm down, look at the tip of your nose. It's not about that, it's a way of life. This is a completely different philosophy. I repeat, only a few reach this point. Comma. But it's a fashionable thing. There's just such an intellectual space in the West. Everyone is busy meditating. So many minutes a day every day. And I think they get some benefit from it. This change in the state of consciousness is very serious. If you treat it like gymnastics, but God be with him. But if you really get involved in this, then you need to remember Gustav Jung, who wrote many decades ago, that it is harmful for a Westerner to do such things. Not because his genetics are unsuitable, that's not the point. If you get involved in this life, you sit in asanas, meditate there for a long time to read. You have to change your lifestyle. Then go to the Himalayas. And there you sit on the mountain. Do you understand? And then nothing. All right. In any case, a guru is needed. Everyone agrees with this. It can't be a young lady who studied somewhere for 3 months and now she leads a meditation club. In general, she should be prohibited from doing this because these people will get sick later, which my colleagues and doctors tell me all the time. My point is that it is necessary either to treat some kind of gymnastics, including physical, or to change the way of life. And in this regard, I'm even sorry that we don't show anything. Some time ago, they sent me a picture a long time ago, you know, according to WhatsApp. There are all friends there. The picture is like this. 2 Buddhist monks are sitting, one is very old, and the second is just old. And the very old ones are sitting motionless to him. And a very old one turns to a young one, who I also think is 84, and says, What are you doing? Yes, I'm watching the trees grow. Young decoy. And the old one says to him, You're all fussing. It's very much something to think about here. You understand, this is a different life. If you agree to move into this other life on health, then there is something to talk about. But at the same time, calvados and gossip, and with terrible speed, you move around the world, and immediately meditate up to the 8th stage. No, it's called clear light. This is the 8th one. And the monks themselves say that when a person goes to a better world, he manages to capture this clear light before he goes. I have a brain that requires adrenaline. Stress is good for him. It suits him. This is just the working condition. Yes, I'm kind of getting turned on, you know, and while I am. Moreover, this also works without any television or the public, namely, I have already said this many times, even in different places, that when I need to write some kind of work, not public, but scientific work, and the deadline is approaching, the most terrible word for all of us. The deadline is approaching. I not only don't have a single page, I don't have a single letter. And I do not know what to do with it, but the deadline is about to come. But now I know that there is nothing to fuss about in advance, because in my case, nothing will work out. This stress should grab me by the throat with a death grip. That's when tomorrow morning, that is, there is no way out. That's when I sit down and write everything, and I'll write it overnight. No, of course, it can't be a book, it can't be a big article, that is, without miracles. But nevertheless, in order to write a text of such a tolerable size, I need to be pinned down. With such a relaxed, quiet life, I can't do it because I was talking to myself on this topic. I thought it was good if I spent, say, 12 hours on this work. I could have spent these 12 hours 2 weeks before. In order not to arrange a madhouse in the house, in order to relatives there didn't curse the day when we met there, and so on. I understand that I could have done the same 12 hours, but not today. But then no, I couldn't now, I just know.
Это я могла эти же 12 часов, но не сегодня, а вот тогда. Нет, не могла. Сейчас я просто знаю.
Because I've tried it all out. Nothing comes out. Therefore, answering your question, the stress of such a day, let's say, well, not all days, then this is a rare situation. But still it's not good, it suits me.
Он мне годится, он мне подходит.
It looks like exactly what Pyatigorsk and Mordash talked about, that understanding and thought is what happens at once. It's always a point, it's a fragment, it's not some kind of time-stretched process, but this is grasping what is happening here and now. I think so. But this point is not quite a point. You see, this point can be quite large, and you are at this point, as it were. You're inside. You're inside, and maybe it's still a line, and it's inside a point, and maybe it has some kind of extension. But the main thing is that, as one said here, he did not say it, but all the time one wonderful musician Oleg Nestorov says there is such a one, maybe you know which one. Megapolis. Megapolis. That's why I recently made friends with him and talked for a while. He has the word flow. He says the flow has gone, that's for sure. I don't know if that's what he meant, but that's the word. Here you are in the stream, and you are the main thing, just don't get out of it. Don't say that. Well, okay, it's me there tomorrow or later, but now I have more urgent things to do there. I do not know the cutlets need to be fried here, the cutlets are all in the trash, and do not get out of the stream. So far, if you hit it, you can't let go. Here is the line about which you said that it is still a line and not a point. Then this line is located across time, as it were. Yes, I agree. But it's true this. How to imagine it? This is some kind of geometry. You caught it very well. It's true that Pyatigorski and Mamardashvili also said what, after all? They said this both in joint works, and each separately. Well, in different words, but the idea is the same. It is very difficult to think. That's what they said. Because you need to keep yourself in this flow. That is, you can't get out of it. You can't afford to step out of it to the right, step to the left. So I started thinking and go. And the thought, as Pyatigorski writes in some place, is very difficult to hold. It runs somewhere all the time, then drags you here. Then here, then something else climbs into your head. Here's to stay in this river, in this one that you got into. That's a lot of work. It's hard to think. And it sounds much more primitive than it actually is. It sounds like he didn't say anything. But if you think about it a little, it turns out that it is. Mamardashvili was just talking about the vertical state, about this, and about the fact that there are always fluctuations. The whole person is human in this. It's in this oscillation from the axis. It should be. But if there is no axis, then what? Then there comes in general some kind of incomprehensible jelly, you understand, in which you do not want to. Mamardashvili said it was iron. But I don't remember that, do I? When he talked about society, about what happens to more than one person, I forgot. Not a single thinking person. And when this mass of people is a crowd, then it's all this in his works. It's literally a term that repeats. It's interesting because I listen to him, and, of course, my work is at home. And read. For some reason, I forgot about this jelly. Thank you for saying that. That's right. That's right, I agree. This is in the same field as what we are talking about now. And that's how we came to this or a similar topic that you, as I understand it, talked about today at the Web Fran conference. About how you measured or examined the functional state of the brain of Tibetan monks during meditation. Only with one correction, that it's not me. No, what I mean is that I really was there, and I was present at these experiments. And I moreover talked with monks, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we discussed it among ourselves. That is, I'm kind of a participant in this case, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not a participant in the experiment itself. This is done by Professor Kaplan Alexander Yakovlevich, an absolutely brilliant physiologist who has been doing this for many years. And his two young, very pretty employees, and his poor Kaplan is being shoved all the time, because one changes the hair color all the time, and the other has some kind of earrings tattoos. In general, they do not look like scientists. They are excellent scientists. Both are excellent. Two young scientists, very disciplined in a scientific sense, reliable, he trusts them. They can do it all themselves without him. In short, wonderful guys. Here they really are, they are doing it. What they do is this. Since the Dalai Lama is very interested, and for many years he has been interested in science. And science is not the same as Buddhist science, it is also a science, but another one. He means that he is interested in natural science, but Western-type science, neurophysiology, the philosophy that is about consciousness. He is interested in physics, mathematics, that is, he is generally an interesting, very interesting person in this sense. Since he himself is terribly interested, he explicitly dumped it out, and since he is the main one in the Buddhist world, the monasteries agreed. They, by the way, could disagree. That is, they have a degree of freedom. They could say, but you like it, well, like sometimes. It's easy to assume that. Yes, but we will not, they say, no. Both the abbots of these monasteries and the monks themselves agreed. Who could also say I am engaged in meditation, this is a serious thing. And how to measure your toys here, what I have there, what impulses are running. We are not interested in how you will have fun. But it turned out differently, namely, they themselves became interested in what happens in the brain when they are in deep meditation. And we are talking about people, not those who, according to fashion in Europe and in the United States, every third housewife meditates. In the interval between a pedicure and fitness, yes, but this is not about that, but about people who live like that, and who meditate, I do not know, many hours a day, and it happens, let's say, 40 years. We are talking about monks of very high rank. These are practices, they are called, these practices are real practices, and they, I repeat, did not agree. A helmet is put on, it is not damaging, it does not hurt, there is nothing there. And their sensors, encephalography is written, and blood flow is written, as a matter of fact.
кровоток, собственно говоря.
This is called non-infrasound spectroscopy.
Sound spectroscopy.
Spectroscopy. In other words, other indicators, in short, are being written. So I was present when it was done. There are two displays you see, that is, he's sitting here with all these wires. Two displays. On one, the use is written, that is, electric, and on the other, these things are written. And it's just that you lose consciousness. Despite the fact that I've seen it more than once, but first of all, for the first time I saw it from a meditating person who is completely out of it. That is, you don't. He has gone into other spaces. And you see how it plays on the screen. And you can see the bleeding things right here. And you won't look at the unified state exam like that, because in order to understand what's going on there, if you're not a narrow specialist, you need processing, because it goes like these curves. There are a lot of them there. There are so many sensors, so many of these curves. And they go on and on. So what are you? You can't draw any conclusion. That's how the second one requires processing. But still there is. You still see where it is, yes, that immediately. Well, in short, it's awesome. Here, what was the most unexpected thing? A few things were unexpected for me, but what I'm going to say now is inexpensive because, I repeat, processing is required. It may be that I saw this moment, but what could it be at all that surprised me? That the right hemisphere plays a very big role. Although if you think about it for a minute, then it should be because the left one, which deals with logic, algorithms, has nothing to do there. When a person goes into meditation, how is it logic? On the contrary, it needs to be knocked out. The second thing that surprised me was that I was on several patients, that is, patients, not patients. Yes, I saw that for some reason this part of the brain on the left is almost not involved. It is dark occipital rather. But it is not rigidly outlined there. But nevertheless there is practically no color. And remind me that why it's not. I don't know why this particular site is not involved in any way at all. The plot participates beautifully, I say, so that, after all, what is their task? These very advanced practitioners. In that from the other end, they have, those who have advanced very high up this ladder, they have in quotes, but still algorithms for the transition from one stage of meditation to another stage. And he knows which of these steps he is on when. But even of them, of these superhumans, even of them, there are units that can reach this 8th stage, when the world disappears altogether. It's but some kind of name for this stage, whether it's a bright light or it's from Tibetan, well, I'm not sure about it. But it's about like this, and it's exactly when a person has left the world at all, when they are sitting with their eyes closed. But in this case it doesn't matter. Even if he sat with his eyes open, he would still not see, hear, or feel anything. They go completely into some other space. So to see what happens in their brain when they move, there is of course a scary, interesting thing. I can say one thing. That Kaplan collects absolutely unique material. Not only has no one in the world ever done this, but they can't do it now, because they won't be allowed in. At least that's why. And how long will it last? And how many subjects will be found who will agree to this? And this is a very delicate job beforehand. Kaplan talks to them, explains what it is, that they are not guinea pigs at all. And it's true. Well, in short, it requires a conversation. So today I showed a photo of the last monk for this season, whom they examined, and I was amazed when this photo came to me on the phone. So this is a hermit who lives there at an altitude of 4,000 meters, you can imagine in the Himalayas. And he is 97 years old. Here I can show you after our recording on the phone. But if he looks 60, that's a lot, and maybe 50. He's 97, he's almost 100 years old. A face without signs of any fatigue from living there, and so on. A clear look that says that you see him alive. In other words, this is this intensive work. Therefore, this is what I said at the conference just now. Why is this important to us? In the end, Lord, there are Buddhologists. There are just who are not there who are engaged in this kind of thing. The 20th century by this. Yes, the whole 20th century. True, Jung told us back then, partly through Hess, partly in his own works, he said, a Westerner should not enter this territory. He'll just go crazy. He can't. The Western brain is not suitable for this. The brain is not like a brain, not a tissue. In general, it is impossible. You can, but if you change the world, that is, if you leave at all. It's not that you live like a Buddhist monk on Tuesdays, and the rest of the time you play cards and beer, like those housewives. Yes, like those housewives. That is, he left, so he left. Then go away. You generally go there, to the Himalayas. Live there. Live, breathe different air, eat different food, and spend time in a completely different way. So yes, the whole 20th century, but there has never been a situation when modern science, including neuroscience, would suddenly come together with such an exotic phenomenon. And on the other hand, why shouldn't she come together? They are people who have advanced along this line as far as anyone. We cannot pretend that they have been fooling around for several thousand years, you see, for several thousand years. The best of the best have studied the problem of consciousness. And we, the owners of tomographs, yes, we will say, okay, this is your chatter, we are not interested. Not interested, please. You cannot go there, but this does not speak positively about our intelligence, because you need to try that. It is very difficult to find out what they have got to in these thousands of years of thinking. In other words, it may seem that this is a repetition of some kind of ritual, all these practices. No, this is development. This is development, and this is personal development. In other words, they put their lives on getting to such a height. These are conscious processes. Yes, these are conscious processes. They know. Those who are there, they have chosen their life path. They chose him. It's a choice. And during these transitions along the steps, it's still the work of consciousness. But we don't know that. And moreover, I will answer you twice in two opposite ways. The first one is easier, namely, most likely, that it is not consciousness, because they just knock out this consciousness. And my second answer is much worse than the first one, namely, and you first tell me what consciousness is, then we'll talk. What is consciousness? We don't know. We don't know what. That is, Buddhists, they would say, yes, there are different types of consciousness. There are different ones. I'm afraid the words are not the right ones to say. I'm not sure if I'm saying the right words. There are different levels. Here, perhaps, I will not be mistaken. Different levels of consciousness. Now I'm in this, then this, then this, but of course I can't explain what it is. And if anyone can, let him come out and please us with an explanation. We don't know. Well, let's say purposeful brain activity, for example. The brain may be spiritual, that is, it is impossible, but it is definitely spiritual. It is their ability to such a state that years of life and years of hard work on themselves lead to building their inner world. Thinking, feeling, attitude to the surrounding world is different. After all, what I have just said again is Western, not in the sense of Anglo-Saxons, as it is fashionable to say now, but in the sense of this type of culture. We are also a Western culture in this sense. We will teach you. Western science. It's just the type of science. After all, we assume that consciousness is something that belongs to some individual being. This creature can be a person, it can be a stupid person, it can be Immanuel Kant or Piatigorsky or Mamardashvili, but it could be a mosquito, it could be an infusoria slipper. In other words, Buddhists say that all living beings have consciousness. Moreover, they say even more harshly that consciousness is, as it were, spilled over the world. Even they say it's spilled over the universe. That is, it is not necessary to have H2O or other fine drinks for this. And how would it fill everything? That's who they strangely do not include their this is a plant. It's weird why, but it's true. Here. But we proceed from the fact that who has consciousness? We, the kings of nature. That's why it takes me so long to answer your question, does it work with consciousness or not? How do we agree? Do you understand what a mean answer I have to give you? How do we agree? If we agree that we consider this kind of thing as consciousness, then we can continue the conversation. And if we haven't agreed on anything at all, what can I tell you? I can say that there is a huge mental, not spiritual, but spiritual work going on. That's how it happens there. Whether the liver or the spleen is involved in it, there is a stupid joke. I don't know, but this is a gigantic job that they have been going to for years. Years of a certain life. You once said that a scientific discovery can be made. Well, rather, the person who owns a large field of associations will make it. That is, not the one who studies at the top 5, but the one who does not know, whose picture of the world is as wide as possible, and works all at once, and he can collect something from it. This also apparently happens somehow at once well, as we all know how these insights are, at least in the mythology of science. And not only in mythology, but even in real science. Because I have recently been very keen on reading all sorts of diaries, memoirs of letters from scientists. You read it from everyone. I didn't understand. And then suddenly, Holy Father, so that's it. It was here yesterday, too. I looked at it. Why don't I understand? It's so simple. Why doesn't anyone understand this? This situation, almost childish, describes it, but everyone writes it. Take Niels Bohr there. I do not know what to list there. That's who you won't take everyone to. I have already given many times and publicly, including an example, because I was very surprised. There were dialogues between Niels Bohr and Einstein. It's very interesting just in general, well, from what I'm able to understand. Because, of course, they're professional things I don't have competence. The idiotic word is fashionable, that is, I don't understand. But if you skip these things, but still watch their conversation, then at some point Niels Bohr is a genius of physics, yes, tells Einstein the genius of physics. He says the following. No, you're not thinking. You're just thinking logically. That's a blow, that's a blow. You see, if he were a musician or a poet or an artist, and he would say such a thing, it would not make any impression on us. Firstly, it is expected, and secondly, it is cheap. Well, what does this phrase mean? But this is what one physicist says to another physicist. And he speaks exactly on the topic that you have just raised, namely, that the slide rule does not know how to do this. It's you who should take a broader look, including at the paradoxes. Why this shadow is like this, from this. Why is that? What does the shadow have to do with it? I'm a physicist. I'm a genius. What shadow? I'm not looking at. What a fool you are, not a genius. Because that's what you're looking at. You don't know where your discovery is. It is located in a place where you have never even turned your eyes. That's what he means. Why do you think this is all logical? Like logic. Who came up with the logic? Who? The Lord invented it. But we don't know that, because then God save and preserve. Then let the Lord answer why he has no cause and effect relationships in the quantum world. I just want to hear it. If he thought of it that way, everything is logical. And what about there? It's not there. If a photon can be here and here, then I would like someone to explain to me how it can be. Aristotle dies immediately at this moment there, and in general, all of them are all of them. Well, Schrödinger's cat, who suddenly found himself in everyone. That's why I fell in love with this cat, because he's not there, that is. And again, you won't tell me what happened at that moment when he saw after all, and when this insight took place. I don't know. I know that I saw two cats at once, because Schrödinger, who has always amazed me since childhood, whose smile sign can be separate from the object. After all, this is Carol in general, who is a genius.
You don't disappear so suddenly, sir.
All right.
Yes, I've seen cats without smiles, but a smile without a cat.
He was a mathematician, as a matter of fact. In general, the book is not for children at all. In other words, it can be read like any wonderful book either way. But he managed, what did he write there? Remember there, for example, there is a moment when Alice comes to the store in some kind, and there are a lot of beautiful things on the walls. And what kind of things won't she pull, and she moves to another place? I'll take the box, but the box is already there. And it drives all the time. And I read the comments of theoretical physicists specifically to this scene. The quantum world. He couldn't have known that. Because when it was then Carol, when it was still none of this came close. And these are the very ones in order to stand still. You have to run all the time. There are thousands of things there. So the thing that I'm also afraid of is one of my favorite books. When Alice comes to the garden, and there are wonderful flowers, and she goes up to the lily and says, like a girl from a good family to you. True, how do they know that you are considering that it is English, but I think that you are. Well, in short, she turns to Lily says, Lily, how beautiful you are. In Russian translation into you, how beautiful you are. What a pity you can't talk. To which he answers, we know how to talk, it would be with someone. What is this? This is exactly how we speak in animals, how they communicate. Just a minute. You don't know their language. Who is to blame? Fish, don't you understand it? Or you, who do not give yourself the trouble to learn this fish language, so relatively speaking. Therefore, Schrödinger's cat, from which his characteristic remains, which lives separately, is generally. Therefore, the drawings do not work. Even these old drawings are wonderful. And then this grinning smile in no way, but I think it's not really depicted. And there is no cat, and this is there, by the way, some modern articles, I just somehow did not find the strength to describe them. I have read several articles this year, from which it follows that the attribute of physical articles, from which it follows that the attribute can be separate from the object. But it's not my womanly mind's business to do such things. Was it cognitive science? It's not. It was. It was neuro, and, in my opinion, at the neural level. It seems to me that it was about neurons, but I don't want to hang noodles on your ears. I can't tell it right now. So I'm going to make mistakes, but why do you need them? But me. But they're for sure. This is a line that came out, which can be a separate feature separately, separate from the object. How is this smile yours or not yours? She whose cheeks are yours is mine, how can it be? It turns out not. Here you are already there, and your smile is right there. In general, the world is more complicated than we fools think.